Hello, everybody. Jeff Mason with SimpleBiz360, episode 60. Really cool show today. Number one, I have some really great guests in David and Dawn Giombetti out of New Jersey, which I'll introduce in a second. And we are coming to you for the first time from the new studios of the rebranded stlouispodcast.com. It is now Half Coast Studios. So we're so excited. But thank you, Dawn, and thank you, David, for joining us today. And if you could, just say hello to the crowd and tell us a little bit about you guys, if you could.
Hi there, I'm Dave, and that's Dawn. We reside in New Jersey, and we own a marketing and management company. We've been in business for just about 29 years, and we're happy to be here. We've known Jeff for a long time, and we're happy to be here to tell our story.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. So what's very interesting, guys, is Dawn and David went to the same high school that my wife did in Hillsborough, New Jersey, and then we got to know them through both of our weddings, and just really got to know Dawn and David as they were, and we're really kind of going to start out, guys, with when I met you and really got to know you. David, you were with GM. You were at the AC Delco division of GM, and Dawn, you were at SmithKline Beecham out of Philly, I believe, in pharmaceutical sales. Both very, very successful. David, if I remember correctly, you went to King's College. Dawn, you're Villanova grad. Got a couple NCAA championships finally, which is great recently. So, you guys come together. You're in successful career paths. And we're gonna pick your story up right at that juncture, because I think what happens with you guys is so exciting, and there's plenty of people out there that are listening that are married. They're a couple. They're in business together. They maybe want to go in business together. They maybe are frustrated where they are. Maybe they've been outplaced due to the pandemic, and they're looking for something new. But your story is one that's so intriguing because it's got marriage, it's got a long-term story, and plenty of successes. So we're going to launch into you're at AC Delco, you're at SmithKline Beecham. How does the itch? What happens with you guys there that makes you want to get into business together?
Jeff, I just want to also say thank you very much before I answer that question. Thank you for having us on. It's fun to reconnect with you and our friend Monica probably about two years ago when you were last in New Jersey, and also to read SimpleBiz360. So thank you and congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. By the way, I've got to show this, right? This is the life preserver of the boat that my wife and I used to sail on. It was actually it was in a slip at one of your marinas, and you guys were kind enough during that visit to find it for us and give it to us. So we really appreciate that. That's special. Yeah. So thank you, Dawn. So what happens at this juncture?
Well, I'll just start back in right out of high school. Dave and I both connected and eventually went off to colleges, separate colleges at that, and stayed dating all through the college years. We always, even on summer breaks and all, we always tackled some kind of business together. We were working together. We were doing flea markets together. We just always tended to do a work project together. So I think almost the writing was on the wall.
We didn't have any money to go on spring break, so we had to work.
Seriously, so you guys had that kind of relationship going into college, basically.
We were just always doing something together. Yeah. Then obviously we start our careers after college, a couple different ones. I end up with Beecham Labs and had a wonderful career with them in pharmaceutical sales and eventually into management, and loved it every bit of the way. I know Dave was with AC Delco, and he'll tell you about his career there. I loved it. I learned a lot about sales, and quite honestly, I thought I was heading for just a career in pharmaceutical sales. If you would have said this is where my life was going, I would have never envisioned it.
Wow.
But hanging out with this guy, we eventually took different paths. So
I started out with AC Delco, and which is a division of General Motors. and worked through the ranks there, got into management. Our last assignment, we were transferred all over. Our last assignment was in Michigan. And actually, the nice thing about working for a big company is you learn a lot. You have the best training. You can make mistakes on somebody else's nickel. And really, that was a good start for us. So when we had an opportunity to leave, and quite frankly, at General Motors, it took an act of Congress to get in and an act of God to get out, and the act of God was dying. No one ever really quit General Motors. Once you got in there, you were in there for life. And I was one of the few, I made it about 9 years. I was one of the few that actually quit. And we quit to start a business out in Michigan called Corporate Sports Marketing. And that started us out with our event marketing program, and it was concentrated primarily with car racing and sailboat racing. And obviously I like boats, so I concentrated more on the sailboat side, got to be very involved with Dennis Conner from the America's Cup. He's a personal friend. And from that point, we did that job for about 2 years. Dawn is now home with the kids. She retired from her position, and we had the opportunity to buy our first marina in New Jersey. And we bought the marina, but we were still commuting from Michigan. So after a few years of doing that, we decided, well, the neighbor's marina came up for sale. Let's purchase that. All the while we were still doing our event marketing business. We did the event marketing business all the way to 2007,
Wow.
as well as run the marinas. So by the time we got into the mid 90s, we had purchased 4 separate facilities, and we combined them into one larger facility. So right now we're the largest marina in Ocean County that's privately held, and we have we couldn't live in Michigan anymore, so we had to move back to New Jersey to run this business. But we also ran the event marketing business at the same time. In 2007 and 8, when the markets crashed, that's when we really put a focus more towards the marinas, because we were really busy with the event marketing programs. We were running 20, 30 high-end events a year all over the country. But once the market crashed, one of our largest customers was in the financial market. Everything ended. So we said, okay, we really got to put the efforts towards the marinas, and that's what we did.
Wow. Interesting. So, and so when did you guys, what year did you actually go full time together as a marketing company?
1992.
1992. So, at that juncture, you mentioned going back. You mentioned it took an act of Congress to get into GM, act of God to get out. You were exposed to a lot of best practices. You were also exposed to a lot of inefficiencies, which I remember the stories we talked about. Mm-hmm. And Dawn, you were obviously with one of the giants. You carried with you so many best practices. What did you guys independently learn at SmithKline, at GM? Good that you took with you, and bad? What did you learn that you didn't want to do, if you don't mind?
Pharmaceutical sales for me gave me a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to get professional training in sales, and then go out literally as an independent salesperson, visiting doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies, and put that into play. And really, as a very young person, right out of college, and actually see that your information was actually turning into real live sales results, to the point where in a lot of cases ended up being number one salesperson in many categories, and just wondering how that could be me, and the exposure was just wonderful. And what I really learned from it is the harder you worked, and I know we mentioned this a lot, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And it was wonderful, great, professional, took me to places I never envisioned going, and really wonderful, wonderful. And then even into management. Here I was managing people. I was in my late 20s. I was managing people in their 40s and 50s. And that was a tricky experience.
Yeah.
But you learn so much along the way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, interesting. So, yeah, the more you put yourself into situations to win or lose, the more situations you have, right? So, it's good. Well, excellent, Dawn. Thank you. And David, what did you know you didn't want to drag with you into business, and what did you know you wanted to take from that GM experience?
Well, I was very fortunate because I had some pretty good bosses. I had some pretty terrible bosses, but I had some pretty good bosses. And whether it was at the local level, the regional level, or the corporate level, they allowed me as a young person to make mistakes. And boy, did I. Mm-hmm. And they said, if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything. And, they always would cover you. We'd fix it. We'd move on. We'd make things better. But so I had good bosses. And, that to me was probably the best thing for me because I'm not exactly a, 2 + 2 is 4 guy. But, so that was important. One of the things and another thing I take from GM was how not to waste money. We had budgets and, as a 30-year-old guy and I had a $75 million budget, and I was getting in trouble. I thought budgets, you wanted to come in under budget, and I was getting in trouble for not spending enough money in my budget. And they had a rule, 10% over, otherwise you use it or lose it. And so in a private business, it doesn't work that way.
Yep.
You can only spend what you have. So in a way, that taught me to be a little bit more financially responsible because I couldn't understand that.
Right.
So being a good boss to our employees, I think, is important. And, being more financially responsible on the other side, I think that's something that I learned from my GM days.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, and I want to say something to the audience that this is, and this is not, this is where it's kind of cool to be friends and know a little bit about each other going into an interview like this. But we used to go visit Dawn and David on and off and in the 80s and get together on Sunday, barbecues or whatever. And I'll never forget, you were living somewhere out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, on that farmhouse. I'm not sure what town it was, but any rate, I remember on a Sunday afternoon after a long conversation on the patio, Dawn, you had to go do your weekly report, send your weekly report in and get that faxed in or whatever back then, and get that done before Monday started. And I'll never forget, there was a bounce in your step. There was a sense of enthusiasm. And I'm sitting here looking at that going, wow, on a Sunday night, this woman is enthusiastic about going to do this function. And I think, David, you even had some similar responsibilities. But on this particular day, it was that afternoon, David, and here I am. I decided to write my book in 1989, but the wheels were spinning much before then. And during our conversation that day, you mentioned to me, if I have my figures right, you were scolded for engineering a marketing success at a cost of $3,300 when the budget was $35,000, and they were mad at you for not spending $35,000, to your point, because next year when you anniversary that budget, you were unable then to attain that $35,000 plus 10%. Instead, you now had a problem. And am I accurate with that? Is that close to?
No, you're pretty accurate. It happened a lot. And I thought it was good to do a good job, get the results, get your return on investment, okay, and save money at the same time. But that's not the way it works.
And in our world, the world of entrepreneurship, it does not work that way. And that's where there's such a disconnect sometimes from the entrepreneurial community and big corporations, and they're just, it's just blatantly disconnected because we can't operate that way in the world of solopreneurship and mompreneurship and so forth. We can't operate that way in many small companies, and so it's just fascinating how much waste, how much built-in unnecessariness is baked into business. And so, these are some of the things that started welling up in me. Believe it or not, our conversations started getting me thinking on the drive home. Gosh, I have to start looking at business better, understanding it better, because, I want to take away best practices and I want to learn from worst practices. So, I appreciate you sharing those stories and that's a great setup. So, you obviously you obviously are exposed, both of you, to wonderful best practices too, for all the ills over there. So Dawn, what's the one thing you think, aside from hard work, you took with you into your efforts? And David, what's the one thing you took into, your adventure with, from GM?
I think for me, what I take being here, even on a day-to-day basis and running our own business, is for me, it's my love of sales. I learned I really, really love selling. I love talking to people. I love finding out what their needs are, translating it into the product that I may have at hand. Pretty much on a day-to-day basis here, portion of our business that I've gravitated to is boat sales. And in a marina, obviously this makes sense that there's boat sales. And it's one thing that Dave says, I'll gladly give it to you. So it was one of those
great
decisions that works well for us in our office. But and I love it. I absolutely love it. Everyone's needs are different. Every boat I have here is different, and taking that. And I remember applying that very much in pharmaceutical sales. Every doctor was different.
Yeah.
Every patient was different that they eventually dealt with. Every product I had was different. And again, selling pharmaceuticals or selling boats, you would not think they are related, but sales is sales. And for me, it's just a general love of it. And I still love it to this day. So
that's awesome. That's what, hey, listen,
I
saw that beat in your step going to do that report. I said, something's wild here. What's the contagiousness here? But yeah, that's your passion. David, what was the one best thing you took with you?
Well, I had a mentor, one of my first customers. He was a really large AC Delco customer in New Jersey. And he was my mentor. And he taught me a lot about the business. He taught me a lot about how businesses really operate. And maybe that's a help, because I came in there as the GM guy and, it's all good and don't worry about this, don't worry about it. No, we got to worry about the nickels. If we save the nickels, then we get dollars. And GM was more differently. So coming out of that, I think it's probably the biggest thing I took out of GM was, how to deal with people. Everybody's different. We have, you don't like everything you see, and you learn to massage programs to make them work, tailored more to your customer, versus a marketing program that came out of a file drawer and all they did was change the date. I mean, that was the joke. Marketing would send a program that was being used 3 years ago. All they did was change the date. And our customers were like, well, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And we learned how to make it work. So, maybe being able to adapt to different situations was probably the biggest thing I've taken out of it. Because like Dawn said, the reason we stayed married after all these years is because she does things she likes. I do things I like, which is more the operations side, the nuts and bolts. And then we each took a few of those things we don't like so that we can divided them equally, so that she has things that she doesn't like. I have things I don't like. And one other thing I can say is, I don't get involved in any of her stuff, but she gets involved in all of my stuff. So that's how it works.
That's the CEO, right? That's the real president, right? I hear you. Well, no, that's exciting to share with us. And I think that, in the 80s, there was a whole movement of, and to your point, David, there was that marketing plan that came out of a drawer. And what changed in the 80s to me is the customer used to have to conform to that marketing plan, and the customer focus, it focused on customers starting in the 80s. And a lot of programs, a lot of seminars I went to, a lot of things I read back then were all about that experience, saying, hey, every customer is different. Let's focus on their particular situation. Let's massage those programs. Let's revise those programs to better fit them, like a custom tailor, than just having them take this boilerplate thing and they either live by it or die by it. So I think there's a lot to be said there, because small entrepreneurs have to understand that you're in a customer pleasing business if you want repeat or referral business, and you've got to be able to adapt and massage and work flexibly with your customers. So great stories there. I appreciate it. So along the way, some way or another, you guys got exposed to sailing. So as your marriage begins, as your careers begin, where did sailing come into the picture?
Well, we're two kids from Hillsborough, so there wasn't a lot of water around there. Dave grew up as a young kid, probably riding mini bikes more than ever conceive of sailing.
Right.
And likewise, I was riding bikes around Monica development with her. So, we were kids from Hillsborough, and boating was exposed to us
by your father
in the college years.
By your dad.
My dad and mom had bought a little sailboat.
And Toby Molina had a little sailboat.
Yeah, who actually taught my father, and that's the Melanie.
Yeah, it's my father-in-law, folks. Yeah, Toby. Yeah,
put up there. So we just decided, we went with them a couple times, and then typical for us, we figured being passengers was not our idea of fun. We would immediately go out and buy our own very little boat and sail it ourselves around Barnegat Bay. So we did that. I think for our honeymoon.
We bought our first boat. Instead of going on a honeymoon, we bought a boat.
Little tiny one.
A little tiny boat.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that just started a couple of years later. We wanted a bigger one and a bigger one. And eventually, when we had our first son, probably a month or two later, he was out already sailing with us. So our kids very much grew up on the water, even in the early years. So.
Yeah, sure. So, that's certainly it's a hobby. It's a stress releaser. It's something that you love to do. Now, looking back on your life, I mean, how cool is it today that you run businesses in the genre of what you love the most? Isn't that the coolest thing?
Well, that was Dave's dream. Obviously, it's something that.
Don't tell Dawn this is what we're doing.
Yes. He has great stories of how he, on the slide, was driving by our first marina here. And
so do you know the story behind how we bought the first place?
No, other than it was just a few slips, maybe 6 slips or something like that. Yeah. No, I don't.
So what happened was Dawn's mom rented a house on Long Beach Island for the week. So Dawn's dad kept the boat on the river. And we flew in from Michigan to go for this week's vacation on Long Beach Island. So I said to Dawn's dad, I'll help you bring the boat over to the house they rented, which was on the water. So as we're driving by on our street, there's this giant sign, Marina for Sale. So I wrote down the phone number, stuck it in my wallet. We went on vacation for the week. We flew back to Michigan. And I used to fly all the time. So I was away 29 weekends a year in my job. So literally, I'm sitting in the airport at Detroit Metro, and I'm looking at, I'm cleaning out my wallet. And in there is this note with the phone number. So back then, I had a cell phone back in the early 90s. It was one of those bag phones.
Right.
I get on my phone, $3.75 a minute. And I called the phone number, was a realtor, and I said, I'm interested in that property. And she says, well, why don't you come look at it? I go, well, I'm in Metro or Detroit Metro, and I'm on my way to Salt Lake City. But I said, you know what? I'm going to come out and look at you. She goes, when? I said, how about it like 3 or 4 hours? So I switched my flight. I flew to Newark Airport, rented a car, drove down, looked at the marina. When the woman saw me, I think I was like 31 years old, and she wouldn't even get out of the car. She hands me the keys out of the car. She just go open it, just make sure you lock it. I'm not even going to come in with you.
And it was raining.
It's raining. I'm not even going to waste my time. So I go in. I like the house. I like the shed actually the best. I come back out after about 45 minutes, and she opens the window. She goes, well, listen, if you like it, let me know. I said, well, how about if we go back to your office and we put an offer in? The lady was floored. So we do. I follow her back, and I put an offer in. Now, Dawn doesn't know. She thinks I'm in Salt Lake City. And back then, we had a fax machine in the house, and I called Dawn on my phone, and I said, after I did all this, I said, you're going to get a fax. Just sign it. You're going to be very mad. I will explain it to you later. And I said, she goes, where are you? I said, well, I'm in Newark. I'll explain it to you later because I got to catch my flight. And so, go to Minneapolis and then over to Salt Lake City. I call her. She did. She signed it. and sent it back, and it was the offer sheet for the first marina.
Oh my gosh. Now, what? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That is so cool. So, Dawn, obviously, is steam coming out of your ears at this point, or I mean, what?
No, I'm home with I took 2 years off to be home when we moved to Michigan. So I took 2 years off, and I was home with the boys. We were having fun. I was getting a bit of the itch, looking for, who knows where my future is going to be, but moving back to New Jersey, or at that time, we just thought this would be a summer home in New Jersey. So the temptation to go back home was something we were probably already talking about. Michigan was nice, but New Jersey was home. So this was a taste of getting us back to the Jersey Shore.
Wow. So let's park right there. And we're in an atmosphere right now that, tens of millions of people lost their jobs or were furloughed, lost their jobs. A lot of them came back to the workforce. Election uncertainty, still millions of people out of work, and a lot of people wondering, should I cash out some of my retirement or investment and start a business? So at this juncture, after this fax happens, you sign it, everything's there. Tell the audience, what's your curiosity factor? What's your fear factor? What's your excitement factor? What's going on in your minds at this point?
Are you talking to yourself?
For me, I'm totally fearless. When we made the decision, which wasn't immediately right then, that was just, we envisioned this as a summer home with slips outside of it that would kind of offset the summer weekend home. Okay. And that made kind of perfect sense to us. And we also felt that was a real estate investment with some potential income.
Upside, yeah.
So that suited our needs at the time. That seemed like a wonderful opportunity.
I was never afraid. When I left General Motors, I used to have a saying there: I can make more money selling hot dogs on the street corner than I can doing what I'm doing. So when I did leave as part of my retirement, my departure party, if you will, they actually gave me a hot dog cart.
No.
Because, it's true. I looked at what I was making and what I could make, and I thought, what am I afraid of? There's nothing to be afraid of. We're young. We can make it happen. And, we cashed out everything. And every 401 we had, and we had great plans with GM, and Dawn had great plans with Beecham. We cashed every nickel we had to start these businesses. And, it just made us work harder.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah, I mean, at one time, we laugh about this, but we're like, at one time, yes, the credit cards were definitely maxed out. Definitely maxed out. I don't know where the next was going to come from. But what we saw was there was a seasonality to the marina business, but there was also, Dave was working very hard and working with some great customers, and the combination of the two. Just, again, the harder we worked, it definitely seemed to help.
Something very interesting that you said there, that and really, and I'm paraphrasing it, but you were all in, 100% in. You cashed out everything. You went into this 100%. I think that's very important. I think that anytime you dip your toe, dip your foot in the water, feel the water, spend a little bit of money, play around in it, and you're not all in, I think there's some danger to that. I mean, what would you think? Would you agree or not agree?
Well, we were swimming. I mean, we jumped out in the ocean, and land's pretty far away. Yeah. And if you know anything about swimming, it's always further than it looks. Right. We made a lot of mistakes. But we looked at every mistake that we made as a learning experience. I mean, you can't buy this education. You have to earn it, and you have to live it. Because when you live it, it's incredible. It really is incredible.
Yeah, yeah. But so I
do have to say too, we now are also doing all of this with two small kids in tow. So that was interesting. Actually, doing a lot of the work at night at a kitchen table when the kids had finally gone to bed, or even some days where we had to tag team each other. You go to this one, I'll go to this one, and the kids will come with us. Grandparents stepped in and helped keep an eye on the kids for certain days where we were both both indisposed weekends where we had to go away together. And it's amazing how much you do rely on some other dear friends, dear family, great people to help you out along the way. So our kids very much grew up with mom and dad working and undertow and with us quite often.
Sure.
And my parents did say that they would never watch my kids again one weekend.
Well, that does happen once in a while, so, what's interesting too here is I think the message that you're sending loud and clear. And I do think this society today sometimes struggles with that, but you, like many other mega successful people, you realize that it took a lot of hard work and you were not afraid to put the work in to get the results out. And I think anybody that is taking that leap of faith and dumping all of their IRA or dumping all of their stocks or all of their investments or inheritance into something or taking a large home equity loan, you've got to be prepared as an entrepreneur to go all in, to work hard, to look at those 18-hour days in many cases and not shy away from that, because a lot of times it takes that before it can work, right?
Well, absolutely. And you got to remember too, there's a lot of things that occur at the same time. You had the financial crash, which hurt. Then we were finally coming out of the financial crash, and then we went to Sandy, where we got devastated. And then, then you come out of that and you have what we're doing right now with the elections and everything else. With COVID-19, what a nightmare. If you can't adapt, you're in trouble. And, just because you have money doesn't necessarily mean you're smart with that money. You have to be smart.
Right.
And, right now, our average age of an employee here is 34 years old. And we're the old people now. And we're like trying, they're learning because they're making mistakes. But, in this day and age, it's hard to make mistakes and work through them as it was when we did it. It was a little bit different.
Yeah, no, I think that when you look at this juncture, just paint for a picture for the crowd. When you do that fax and you start the business, how old are you, David, at that point?
30, maybe. Okay. 30?
Yeah, you're probably 31. I was probably
31.
29.
And I'm 30.
Okay.
And I thought I could do no wrong.
Right.
Let's just run. What's the worst that can happen?
Right. Okay, so I want to ask a question about the curveballs of business. We all of us navigate the curveballs of life, but the curveballs of business come fast and furious. And for entrepreneurs and for people who are out there struggling right now, listening to this podcast, and they're struggling in business. They're talk about the curveballs of business. How do you, as a business owner, each of you, how do you navigate the curveballs of business? What do you draw on to do that properly?
I remember in 2008, in 2007, we started noticing just some changes in the marina business here. Just sales, and we used to have waiting lists and prior to that, as big as we grew, as more things that we did, we were all growing. We were growing. There was very much a moving forward step going on. And we started noticing that, slip renewals were down a little, and things just were starting to happen around that 07, 08. When 08 hit, and obviously the first toy to go in a lot of households back then was the boat. The boat was certainly a luxury item. It was something that could be sold, parked in their own backyard. It was definitely a first budget cut for a lot of households. So obviously sitting here as a marina, we did not have as many customers. No. Total revenue sources were really just drying up around us. And I know what we did is we just buckled down. We just had to really look at what were areas that we could cut, what were some personal areas that maybe we just had to step back from, family vacations that we chose not to take, things that we gave up ourselves so that we could keep our business moving forward and keep our employees satisfied. And it was certainly a very dramatic income reduction.
Sure.
And then Dave certainly saw it on the marketing side as well. So.
Well, the marketing side ended. I mean, our biggest client was Merrill Lynch. And during the financial crisis, you know what happened with Merrill Lynch?
Sure.
You know, they became part of Bank of America. And, you know, people buy from their friends. All things being equal, people buy from their friends. Our friends were Merrill Lynch. They weren't Bank of America. So we had to go out and try and find new customer bases. And we did. We found some. But the prospecting and trying to get new customers was very difficult. The Merrill people loved us. To this date, we still are very good friends with all our Merrill contacts. The problem is they're not in the jobs that they had. And so that was a tough one.
Yeah.
But you know, and then after that, we see the light, and then Mother Nature comes in and pops us with Sandy.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there like, and everybody goes, "Oh, but you got insurance, correct?" And we're going like, "No, because you can't afford the flood insurances that for our place."
Right.
You know, we're almost 23 acres here, buildings everywhere, and to get flood insurance on it is crazy.
Yeah.
You just can't afford it. So you're self-insured in a lot of ways. So we've learned to become very, very self-sufficient. You know, we have guys that can do a lot of different things. Everybody's got a talent, and the key is trying to make all the talents work together, because sometimes it's, you know, that's difficult too.
Bingo. Again, much like you approach a customer, you're massaging your employee base to get the strengths, to get the best out of the people who have the strengths, and allocate those job functions to those individual people. But, you know, so here you go, folks. You know, the curveballs of business are coming. They're coming. You've got to, you know, and today we've heard, at least initially in this COVID, we heard the word pivot a lot. You know, how do you pivot? How do you pivot? Well, obviously, you know, you call it whatever you want, pivot or adjusting or revising, modifying. You learned how to modify and adjust when renewals are down and do things. Mother Nature hits. You don't have insurance. You've got to now figure out how to do everything you can. And I think it goes back to something you said, David, about AC Delco. You mentioned that your one of your good customers taught you the value, the nickels and the dimes and the quarters. And we say it here all the time, because I learned that same lesson called margin erosion. And it was never about the dollars. It was always about the pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. You know, we went out and did programs. You know, you have a $10 million business with Target, and you want to deliver a certain, you know, bottom line number. And it's how do you prevent losing 17 cents here, 3 cents there, 8 cents there? It's not about the dollars. It's about the pennies, nickels, quarters, and dimes. And you know, I think, you know, that's how I know you, and I know that's what you did. You broke things down, correct? And you looked at it and you figured, what do we have to shave? What do we have to focus on? What do we have to work with here? Right?
Well, it's funny because, you know, I walk around the boatyard every day, and I might find a nickel, a penny, a dime. I'll find money laying on the ground every day. And the guys think it's funny that I pick up a penny. And I go, when I pick up that penny, I say to it's anybody that's near me, I go, 99 cents more, I got $1. To the point where they thought it was funny, so they glued a quarter down on the shop floor, and they're all standing around because they know I'm going to see this quarter.
Right.
Now, what they didn't know was that I saw them glue the quarter down. Okay, so I went through the shop and I stepped over this quarter like 15 times, and they're all like upset that I didn't bend down and pick up that quarter. So I went over to one of the benches and I picked up a hammer and a small chisel, and I just popped the quarter off the thing, and I picked it up and I go, 75 cents more, I got $1. They go, how'd you know we glued it? I said, that's because I'm the boss. But I had his quarter. Okay. To me, it was about that quarter. I can't put money in the bank and make that kind of money. Yeah. Okay. So when you protect the pennies and nickels and dimes, everything else follows. Yeah. Yeah. And we're very, very strong on that point.
Yeah.
You know,
amen. Yeah. Hold on to your sand. In the book, right? You know, when we said it all last year at the end of every broadcast was hold on to your sand. And what I used to do is I was amazed when I just, you know, thought about this. I took a bunch of sand, you know, especially in the Jersey Shore, that fine sand, and you take dry sand and you put it in your hand, you put your hand up and you know, right about chest high, and just look at it and look how much sand is falling out. And that really, you know, that goes to show you that those small little pennies add up. They're falling out all over. And when you think you're selling something for $12 and it costs you $8 and you're making $4, and then you as a small business owner at the end of the year, your accountant says, no, that actually cost you $10.17. You're like, what? How could that possibly be? So again, and I think you would agree with this in small business today, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right or wrong?
Right. Well, I agree 100%. We have a thing called the paintbrush theory. So, we have 17 employees, so they're in and out. Everything is scanned, everything is barcoded, all the inventories and everything. But somebody might come in and grab a paintbrush, and they forget to scan it out. And I would say, how many paintbrushes do I have to sell in order to make up for that lost paintbrush that we didn't scan? They go, well, one. I go, no. Depending on the price of that brush, I might have to sell 10.
Right.
They didn't understand that. They understand it now because if we can't save that margin, how do we stay in business?
Right. And folks, yes, absolutely, David. And you're listening, folks, to somebody, correct me if I'm wrong. How many boat slips do you have now?
We have 240 slips. We can accommodate boats up to 90 feet. We'll do 350 boats on land. We work 12 months out of the year. This is actually our busy season. And because it's like, remember the game Tetris?
No.
Tetris, it was a video game, and, it was the blocks that were falling down. And the better you did, the faster the blocks came down. Well, our business is like Tetris because as the colder it gets, the faster the boats come out of the water. If we don't get them out of the water, we don't get them winterized, we don't shrink wrap them, get them all done before the freeze, then a $100,000 engine would break, or water systems in the boat. They're like houses without heat. So our job now is to get them out of the water, get them winterized, get them wrapped, put them away for the winter. But we're going against the weather. It's not going to get nicer. It's only going to get meaner. So the guys are working 12, 14-hour days right now to try and get all these things out. And sometimes I got to be a cheerleader. I got to go out there and say, look, you're going to love me in the end of November because at the end of November, it's going to be 10 degrees and you're doing the same thing. Or we stay late now while it's nice and we get these boats out. You're making overtime. We're getting them out. We're solving our problem. But in the end of November, it's going to be cold.
Yeah. But
we still got to do the job.
Yeah. Bingo. Well, David, and again, you folks, you're listening to somebody who's, who I'm sure some employees might look at some of this advice and some of these, metaphors and analogies you use and some of these stories you tell them as, he's just pontificating or whatever. No, you're really teaching how to retain profitability. You're teaching things that are essential. And that I think that, and one of the things that propelled me to write my book and get into this portion of the twilight of my career was that it just pained me to see how many small businesses went into business and 2 years later they went out, and there's just simple things they're doing incorrectly. And I don't mean to keep focusing on incorrectness, but incorrectly that are costing them that margin erosion that they can't see or detect or feel, but because they can't see the totality of the globalness of what they're doing and how it affects the pocketbook. And so I think what you're saying is so vitally important to small business owners is that, folks, you do really have to look at the cost of everything you're doing and what you think the margin is. And you've got to do everything you can to make sure that that's retained and not lost. And that comes down to procedures, David, I think, and you're an operational guy. Dawn, I love sales too, and I know David does too, but, there's procedures in sales, but the procedures in operations are the ones that really cost you, give you the profitability you expect or cost you the profitability, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it's so, yeah.
I think the most important thing for us, and because we have such a young crew, some of my guys have been with me 15, 17 years, and they're only 34 years old. So I've had them as kids, but is to make them better business people. I'm teaching even the yard guys and the mechanics and not just the office people. I'm teaching all my employees to be better business people. And it could be used at home. It could be used anywhere. But in my business, if even the lowest level guy is a good business person, my business is going to be better. And we spend an awful lot of time doing that because it's important. That's how I can't do everything. Dawn can't do everything. We have to rely on our employees. And, when it was just the two of us or one other guy, It was easy.
Right.
We messed up. We owned it. But now I've got to teach these young people to be good business people, because if they're good business people for themselves, they're going to be good business people for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, wonderfully said. David and Dawn, how impactful is the renewal business for you? I mean, what part of your business equation is built on renewal contracts, and what focuses on repeat business? I mean, sorry, I should ask the other way. What's the percentage of repeat customers for you, and then what's the focus on referral business for you guys?
Well, I would say renewals. I mean, we count on it. That is our bread and butter. Is someone that is here, and actually a good bit of them do fall into the category where once they are a customer here at a marina, they'll be for summer, they'll be for winter, you'll be their servicing yard. You will sell their boat if in fact they need their boat sold, or help them purchase a boat down the way. So a good customer, if we do everything right, can conceivably stay with us for years. And that's the ideal. What is our retention rate? We're probably, this particular year, probably about 75%. Would you say 75% for slips? Winter, we're probably running about 75%. 25% will be new. And those, again, with referrals and advertising, is where we will really get our new customers from.
It's easier to keep somebody than it is to find them.
Bingo.
And so we spend an awful lot of time to make sure that we do the right thing for people, and it's very difficult when you've got a lot of employees. And when I say a lot of employees, we're not like GM, we're small, we're a mom and pop deal. We only have 17 people, but we are, everybody's got to do the right thing, because we could do the right thing in the office and the guy out in the yard could do it wrong, or the service guy could do it wrong, or the kid at the gas stop can do it wrong.
We've said if the toilet paper's out in the bathroom, that's doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So we could do everything right. We can fix a boat, have the pool clean, and have the marina really running, and the toilet paper's out. So, talk about, but that's just as important to the person who's using your beautiful bathroom facilities. The toilet paper's out. So, we really need to fire on all cylinders in order to make everyone.
And in order to do that, you have to have good pricing schedules. You cannot be the cheapest guy in town. Never want it to be. We have to give good value for our price. And if our price is higher than everybody else, we have to give exceptional value. Because, I grew up in an age where value added meant something. And I'm trying to project to our customers and to our employees, value added still means something. We in order to give you the best value, sometimes it costs money, because we need the extra money so that we can give it back to the boatyard, or we can give it back to the customers in different ways. And you can't be the low cost guy and still give the best service and give the best value. That's my opinion.
Bingo. So no, I absolutely agree. So, we say here, customer perception is customer reality. So your toilet paper's out, your customer goes away and says, honey, I'm, 3 times out of the last 10 times I went to use the restroom there, I'm out of toilet paper. I can't stand this. It's those little things, right? It's those little things that add up and create those negative customer perceptions. So, we're all about trying to get our audience to embrace the little things, like a restaurant. If I was a restaurant owner, the one thing I would do, just me, I would say, make sure that every single person at every single table never has to ask you for water. If you just do that, if you just fill up that water glass independently of, them asking you, you volunteer that fill up. You're creating a perception versus reality that, these guys care about me, and which leads me into this, we're all about the customer experience. I know from talking to you in the past, not only do you care about the little things, but you care about the little things because you want that customer experience to be good and not bad. Talk about that a little bit, if you could.
Well, we were boaters ourselves. And we remember even, taking boating trips and going to marinas and checking them out. And I think we model our business after little ideas that we took along the way. How did we like to be treated? What service did we learn from certain locations? A lot of it, Dave says he remembers in the GM world. How were cars maintained? What did the dealerships do to give good service?
And we actually operate like a dealership. We took that GM model and we actually, we have a parts department, which is a profit center. We have a service department, profit center. We have the sales department, which is a profit center. We have the slip department, which is a profit center. Now, we call it the wheel. So everybody, when we have our yearly meeting, we draw a circle and I draw the spokes and we put what they actually are. And I say, and people are like, well, maybe if we didn't have this, it would be better. I said, well, listen. When you live through the ups and downs cycle, because when business is bad and we're not selling a lot of boats, the service department picks up. So their wedge gets a little bit bigger and it helps us with the slower sales. Same thing when slip sales weren't going on, maybe winter storage was bigger because the boats didn't go in the water. So that section picked up. So we operate with this wheel and it's very, very important. I said, if you have a wheel and you get rid of a wedge, guess what? It doesn't turn. If you change the wedges, the thing is still going to turn. It might not turn the way you want it to be, but it's still going to turn. And it's to us, that's how we've operated for the past 29 years. We've been adjusting that wheel so many times.
Yeah.
And it's really helped us.
But you said something very important there, and again, I want to transfer that best practice over to small business for a second. In theory, you're saying that in the GM world, you had profit centers. You looked at everything and broke down everything individually. Again, you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right? So same thing. I'm making pants. In the 807 hemisphere, which is South America and Central America, you measure your pant production on standard assembly minutes. Now, you would never think that a pair of pants takes up the lines of cost that you measure on making a pair of pants in an 807 location, let's say, Dominican Republic, is 8.5 by 11 pages long. And every one of those things, if you're making pants in 31 minutes when you should be making them at 27, you're losing a lot of money. Where are you losing it? Well, it's on the third page, line item number 37. You know what I mean? And you've got to be able as business owners to break your businesses down. And we're all about this, to say, look at your costs per line item of what it's costing you to buy your raw materials, assemble them, do this, do that, and everything has a cost to it. And David, you're measuring every one of those centers, those profit centers. You're dragging that best business practice from your GM days to your business. And that's why you have a very successful 240 slip business that, and other things, boat sales, that young business owners need to grab onto. You just can't go out, and I'm sorry to say this. I don't mean a disrespect to Donald Miller and people like the storytellers, but I think there's a lot of mistakes being made today in business where people are thinking, oh, I can just go out and tell a good story and have a great digital marketing plan, have a great marketing plan, and I'll grow my businesses. Well, you got to deliver on what you're saying you're going to do anyways. But the second thing is, and more importantly, you got to figure out everywhere you're making money or losing money, you got to measure that. Because at the end of the day, you could have the best marketing plan and the best story whipped up in the world, but you're not, you're going to fall apart if you're not measuring things and being judicial about the procedures and about the operations, correct? You're living it.
Make your plan, then work your plan.
You're living it. So did you guys do a business plan just out of curiosity when you went into this, or did you?
Yes and no. I mean, we didn't do a formalized business plan where we sat down with 27 reams of paper and, because we really didn't know.
Yeah, it started very
small,
very simply. Yeah, I mean,
so we really didn't know everything we were getting into. We learned very fast. very fast all the things we didn't know.
Yep.
And then you have to adapt from there. But we had a plan. I mean, we had a plan that more of a financial plan than it was a business plan. You know, I thought that I was a smart guy, and what I realized right out of the box was I wasn't as smart as I thought. And, you know, we took numbers that were given to us that weren't exactly off, but weren't exactly correct. We bought our second place, and the numbers were manipulated, and we didn't do enough due diligence. When we bought the second place, it came with an inventory, and we had to add up the inventory, and that was purchased afterwards. And throughout the inventory process, I'm realizing this is a bunch of garbage here. Why are we paying for this garbage? So we renegotiated that portion, but it wasn't because I knew, it was because I did the inventory. I was there with the owner that we bought it from going through the inventory, and people were like, well, why did you do it? You should have the kids do it. No, I wanted to see what we got.
Right.
And as we're doing it, I'm realizing this stuff is not good. Why am I going to give you thousands and thousands of more dollars for stuff that's garbage? And we didn't know. You know, we really didn't know. Every day we learn something new.
Yeah.
And after doing this for 29 years, we're still learning something every day.
Are you still, both of you, informational sponges? Do you still sponge up everything?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
And again,
Excuse me.
I laugh about boat sales. We were saying when we first started selling their used boats, customers' boats. In the beginning, I actually needed a lesson on, like, what is that in a boat? Like, what's that hanging off the back? Well, Dawn, that would be an engine. And, you know, that's an outdrive, that's an outboard, that's an inboard. I mean, things that now I speak as if I'm an expert on. Where 30 years ago, I mean, I literally needed instruction as to what am I selling here? And it was fun along the way. You know, it's one of those things that, with every customer action, every time I want a different boat, I learn something new about it, a new piece of equipment. I ask Dave, I ask our service techs, teach me about this so that I can speak intelligently about something on board a boat that, you know, I want to be able to answer those questions.
Right.
So, yeah, sponges on my side, and I'm sure.
You know, and after almost 29 years, we're now going into the next generation here, you know, with the boys, you know, and that's now my new learning curve. How do I get we got the buy-in. How do I get the enthusiasm that we had and have with them? And, you know, it's a learning curve for them as well, and for us.
right.
So you know, we're transitioning our where we fit in and where they fit in. You know, their world is so different than our world.
Right.
You know, generationally, you know, and they're bringing in their customers and people they know. Their friends are all now getting boats, and where do they go with it? They're bringing it to us, and we're like, wow, that's great. We got some new customers coming in, and yet it's a whole different massaging going on. You know,
right.
So we're learning that, and they're learning what we knew, and we're learning from them. So it's interesting.
Well, no, I would imagine. So let's switch it over to the customers and learn something from the customers. In your opinion, after doing this for this many years, if I was a customer and I was one of your customers, and someone asked me at a dinner table, why should I slip my boat with Dawn and David? I mean, what's your hallmark? What's your hallmark that would draw a new customer to your business?
Well, first off, nobody cares for your boat like we do. We are boaters. Every one of my employees is a boater. This isn't a job. This is a lifestyle. And because of that, we care more than the guy down the street. Nobody handles a boat like us. Our yard department is the best by far. Within 200 miles of here, there's nobody better than them. My service guys care about everything we do. We might not be the fastest game in town, but we deliver the best possible product at a fair price, and we try and do it on time. Not always on time, but we always deliver the best possible product at a fair price. We stand behind everything we do. It doesn't matter. We stand behind everything we do. We own up to our mistakes. Hey, we make them. but we're the first one on the phone saying, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, we made a mistake. We're going to take care of it. If you want to wait to come down and look at it first, fine. But we might scratch a boat with because we got so many of them here,
or a
ladder fell or something. We'll fix it. We never shuck our responsibility, and that's a huge thing. I mean, so the employees and Dawn and I are the most important part of this marina. Anybody can own a marina, but nobody does what we do to make your boating experience better.
I think it's a hands-on experience. I mean, you're meeting, you're walking around the boatyard, you're seeing us, you're seeing our employees. Our employees are friendly, they're professional, they're
if you have
part of the family.
If you have a problem, you go through the proper channels. If it's a service problem, you go to the service department first. If you want to talk to me, I'll pick up the phone. Every single person that comes in to look at a slip, new customers especially, if someone comes in off our counter and we're there most of the time, and the first thing they do is they get all the information, what kind of boat do you have, then they'll get me and I'll come down and I will give them a personal tour of the facility. And it might take 45 minutes by the time we're all said and done. But you get us.
Yeah.
You get the family. You get our stamp that we're going to do the best job for you. Now, you might not want to pay our price.
Right.
That's okay too.
Right.
But when we're walking through the boatyard, I'll be showing them how the guys block boats. And when you got 400 or 350 on land, it's easy to say, look, we didn't just do this so we're walking past here and they all look great. Right. Every single one is great. Everyone is in the perfect, a little bit of OCD, but everything is in order.
Right.
We don't have junk lying around our marina. We got a 2.5 acre facility across the way that we put all our junk in. That's not, and you pay good money to be here. You're not going to look at my junk.
Right. Yeah.
So it's, that's what you're getting when someone says, why should I go to you?
Well, and I think, and thank you so much for sharing that. And, certainly, I think what I'm interpreting that as you saying, we respect your investment in us, and we will show you how much we respect that by caring for your boat like it's ours, by caring about your experience, because we're boaters too. We understand what you want, what you need. But more importantly, I think, David, if I'm reading between the lines, you're giving customers what they deserve. Is that fair to say?
You said it a lot better than I did. Yeah.
I mean, I think
they have 11 weekends to use their boat, of which 5 the weather's going to be bad, of which 2 the boat is going to be broken. So when you break it down, there's not that many weekends that they really can use their boat, but those weekends have to be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
They know weather's going to be bad.
Bingo.
They know they're going to break.
Bingo.
But we have to be able to fix it. I can't do anything about the weather, but I can certainly make sure that when we have the responsibility to fix something, it has to be, you have to get it done timely, and you have to be able to use your boat for those 3 weekends.
Bingo.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. You're, folks that are in a seasonal business on the Jersey Shore. By the way, probably proximity-wise, if everyone's familiar with Jersey, it's exit 74 off the Parkway. You take a Forked River exit, and they're down off of Route 9, I guess, if I remember correctly, right. Down in that area. But in the seasonal business, I worked, I lived on the Jersey Shore for 8 summers. And when you work in a restaurant that's open Memorial Day and closes Labor Day, for argument's sake, the pressure for you to make your annual income in that short period of time, much like you've really got to fire on all cylinders. You've really got to focus on the customer experience, because, if you've got a family in for a week out of town and they come to your restaurant on Monday, you've got the ability to get them to come back again Friday, if they like the experience. If they don't, they're going someplace else. And, but more importantly, you need that repeat. You need that customer base to be happy, to be telling your story and so forth. So I think what you're saying is so healthy for the listeners here, because you're really saying, we care about the money you're investing in our company, and we'll prove to you that we respect your hard-earned dollars. And I think that's just so great. And I'll give you a little plug here. This is funny. It's happened by mistake. I did a skit one time at a national sales meeting. I have a sales agency, so I work for about 6 or 7 different companies aside from SimpleBiz360, and did this national sales meeting. I did a little skit. And it was for a German company. And just about a month ago, we had our national sales meeting this year, and we did it, via Zoom. and they go, look at this. We recorded you last year. We take this on every sales call in Europe and play this in every sales call in Europe. And what it was me mimicking my sales manager from the 80s, who was a 6'4" New Yorker. And this is what he would say. And I'm kind of, I embellish it a little bit, overemphasize it. But he would basically say, customer would go, well, you know what? That's too expensive. I can't pay that price. Mr. Customer, I'll explain my price once, right? But I'll never, ever apologize for the quality. And when you think about that, I'll explain my price once, but I'll never apologize for the quality. The cheapest price isn't always the right answer. You deliver more, and so I think it's so cool. What's the one thing, you guys, as we kind of try to sew this up, what's the one piece of business advice, Dawn, you could give an entrepreneur in the wings or somebody that just started out as a solopreneur, mompreneur? And David, same thing from your vantage point.
It's not going to be easy, but it is so worth it in the long run. If you would say, where did 30 years go? For us, it's working with your husband and now working with our kids and even the employees we have. We were saying not too long ago, the employees we have now, we truly do all feel like a family. We run like a very large family. Maybe COVID even made us all think about that a little bit more intimately, because we're all making sure everyone is taking safety precautions and that their family and that they're staying working, and we're very conscious about this, that they're staying working and that we're providing a safe place for them. And it's so worth it in the long run.
Nice. David, thank you, Dawn.
Well, I wouldn't want to do anything else. I mean, working for the man is a good way to start, but when you are the man, it's good to be king. And, but this king gets knocked down quite a bit, but you know what? There's nothing better than waking up every morning and getting to the office and knowing what your day is going to, you start off with a plan, and then your plan always changes.
Right.
And,
right.
Nothing better than it in the world. I wouldn't change it for a minute.
Well, that's awesome. Well,
all right, maybe a minute.
Yeah, no. Listen, you love what you do. It's apparent. It's evident. I'm sure your customers see it all the time. It's so neat to be doing something you love to do, and that's exactly what the way I feel about what I do too. And been in business just as a small entrepreneur, solopreneur for 14 years. And man, I just love it, and I try to do my best too. But, every day I wake up, love it, have a plan. And boy, oh boy, does that plan get messed up. Right. So,
8:05.
I had a couple of jobs in my life where I'd go to bed at night and go, well, what am I going to do tomorrow? I mean, for 14 years, I've gone to bed going, I've got 34, 14, 18, 27 things I could be doing tomorrow, and I need to do. And it's just crazy. So as we kind of wind this down, I'll let you guys get on with your day, and we'll get rolling here. But I just want to ask, you were kind enough to do a review on the book as we got ready to publish the book. Thank you very much. You've purchased a number of copies. I know your sons have read it. What's your favorite tool or favorite part of the book, SimpleBiz360?
Mine isn't a favorite, but it's something that was just one of your lines that I now have to think about a lot. It's number 84. I think it was the new no. And I started noticing it, in customers, and I was blaming it on technology, thinking, well, maybe texting and all, people just don't reach back to you. But it is something I'm conscious of, when I have a good, what I think is a good sales opportunity with someone, and then I never hear from them again. And it just seems like that is definitely a newer phenomenon over the years, where you used to get a courtesy phone call back or something. So now I'm like, well, I take a couple more steps to try and reach out to them. Was it the cost? Was it the price? Was it the product? Did their plans change? What is something? Because I want to learn from that. I just don't want them to never see someone again. Maybe it's a different kind of boat they're looking for, or they decided not to pursue boating this year, but maybe next year is going to be different. So that was just an interesting observation you made.
Yeah, well, I've lived it. You know, the new what Dawn is talking about, folks, is that, you know, when you present something or you think you might have an opportunity, you just never hear back from that person again. They don't respond to emails, texts, phone, whatever. That's the new way. It's disheartening, but it's the new way of people saying, no, I'm not going to do it. They don't want the confrontation or whatever. It's just, it's not like we were used to, Dawn. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. David?
And for me, I just want to read the title so I get it right. Get buyers before they get to you. And that is such a, you know, you are so spot on in that we spend a lot of our time, you know, with our employees. Call them, let them know where we are, let them know you have a problem. Don't let them come down after 5 days of not hearing from you, finding out we have a problem. If you tell them, most people are reasonable, but if you don't tell them, I'm not even reasonable. I think it's the worst thing on the planet is not to communicate with the customer. And that is our single largest challenge that we have right now is communication with our customer, with the service department, trying to get them to call everybody. And it's hard, you know, it's a lot of time in a day because you got to explain a lot of things, but because you've got so many things going on, but to contact somebody and let them know where we stand. No one wants to drive 3 hours to their boat and find out we're working on it on Saturday because they didn't know. Maybe they would have went camping, or maybe they would have went to a football game, or maybe they would have just went hiking. But no, they drive all the way down here. They're all excited. They think their boat is done. And here's a guy in the engine box trying to make it work. And that to me is the worst possible thing we could do wrong. And so that is something that we absolutely work on every single day. We talk about it. We try and get it done. But that to me is the worst. And you were spot on in your analysis. To me, you can't do anything worse than that.
I mean, I'm so glad you talked about this because I just did an episode. If you go back 2 episodes before, we're at when we're taping today, it's episode 55 day. But if you go back to 53 or 52, I talk about being 120 certified, and I present a formula that if you had 240 business questions a year, instead of answering 240 or instead of not answering those and letting that number go up, what if you were to cut them off and get to them before they get to you? And that 240 questions all of a sudden becomes 120. Don't you think you'd get more business out of that? Don't you think you'd get more people saying, oh my gosh, those guys are great. They called us before we got in our car and drove an hour down to exit 74 because, you know, we did want to go to Six Flags. I'm so glad they called us and we went to Six Flags instead of driving down, blah, 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 blah. You can, you know, you're painting the picture for the audience in some of your, you know, examples before. So, man, I'm so glad you said it because I feel like sometimes it's a hard concept for people to wrap their arms around. It's just simple. It's the water in the restaurant. Get to the person sitting there. They want water. Chances are, fill it up before they ask. You know what they'll do? They won't remember the meal. They won't remember this. They won't remember that. They'll go, I love that place. I never have to ask for water. I'm serious. If you talk to people,
it's one of the hardest things we have to do is communication. It's hard.
I call it courtesy communication. That's what I call it in the book. It's called CCOM. And so thank you so much for saying that. I'm like, yes. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking to these, you know, pads on the wall. Like, you know,
I get it. So I feel the same way.
Well, listen, it's so cool. So cool. Well, we have enjoyed so much of this show for sure and getting the audience to know you guys. So please give us the name of your business, social media wise, you know, website wise. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, we go by the marina name, Silver Cloud Harbor Marina.
Okay.
Our corporate name is different, but on the street, we're known as Silver Cloud Harbor Marina and Forked River Yacht Sales. 2 of our other marinas here where people keep their boats, so I want to give a shout out to them, are the Marina at Tall Oaks and Wilbert's Marina. So we're all located on Bay Avenue in Forked River, which is, like you said, exit 74 on the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey. Our website is silvercloudharbormarina.com. Easy enough, and it brings up all of our different departments and nice overview of the marina, great photos, great chance to get familiar with us there. on Facebook. We're Silver Cloud Harbor Marina on the Forked River.
Oh,
and
okay.
that gives you a good idea of current pictures. Dave likes to share a lot of our photos daily, which is fun for folks to see, where their boat is on land or what's going on here on a day-to-day basis.
Love the pictures, Dave. By the way, I know you're the selfie king. I did yourself up yet, but no, I love your pictures. I love the sunsets. It's always nice being a replanted New Jersey person out in Missouri. I love seeing that, and it just warms my heart. And you certainly have a wonderful business, and you guys have always been Monica and I have always loved your passion for life and business, and so and your passion for sailing and your customers. If you're ever considering Dawn and David, you're listening to this podcast, I can tell you got some people there that really certainly do care about your money, and I know that. So. Lost in the Shuffle Track. We do a fun little thing every day. We're from the rock and roll, the heart of that rock and roll genre and time period in life. And so we love to dip back and go into some of our favorite bands and pick a song that might have been lost in the shuffle or forgotten about. Dawn, do you have a particular band and song you want to pick as a lost in the shuffle track?
Well, I thought what would be perfect, since we are talking about the marina here, was a funny snapshot in time. It's probably 1979. I'm over Dave Giombetti's house. We're eating Chinese food or something, sitting on his floor listening to music, and he puts on an album, Supertramp, even in the quietest moments. And it's just a great album then. Everyone was listening to it. And a song comes on then. And I remember where I was sitting, eating again an egg roll or something like that. And it was called Downstream. And, had a nice tune to it, but I was really listening to the words. And years later, I really listened to the words. And it's all about sailing. And
well, the first part of it is, took a boat Sunday down by the sea. It was just so nice, just you and me.
Now, at that time, we had never sailed in a sailboat, never.
Wow.
This was 1979. I didn't even know what sailing was ever going to be like.
Wow.
To take that now, 40 some odd years later, and for the line of work that we've chosen, my husband and my two sons are licensed captains. We're boaters, we're sailors. They have their whole world is boating, not just sailing, but boating in general. To think that was almost a premonition, really, of what my life was going to end up. And ended up being our wedding song.
It was our wedding song.
Really ends up just kind of outlining my entire life.
And every sailboat we've ever owned, the name is Downstream.
Oh, is that? I did not know that.
Every boat.
Yeah.
Every sailboat.
No kidding. So you just, wow. Well, such
that was kind of that's my funny sailing story, but.
Such a pretty song, and so weird that it's about sailing. Well, that album was actually recorded up at a ski resort up in Colorado, and that, if you guys don't, that cover with the piano and the mountain.
With the piano,
resort,
that's right.
Yeah, so pretty cool. Well, that's awesome. They had a very lovely song, by the way. So we'll put a link up for our viewers on YouTube so they can go straight to a YouTube version of that song too. So David, how about yourself?
Well, I'm a Bob Dylan fan, and Blood on the Tracks was the first record I ever purchased. And Tangled Up in Blue, if you listen to that, it's probably one of my favorite songs. It just, when I listen to it now, I listen to it quite a bit. When I listen to it now, it kind of brings me back to, my early days, and it just brings back very, very fond memories. Yeah. And it's almost like a comfort song. When you listen to it, it's just like to me, it's a comfort song. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, very interesting album too, because if you look at that, Bob Dylan was really coming out of a kind of a funk critically. A lot of people were saying he was in a funk, and that album was really about his son Jacob says that's really about his parents. So mm-hmm. Bob and Sarah Dylan, and it's really an introspective album about that. So yeah, cool. But he was certainly Tangled Up in Blue is one of my favorite Bob Dylan tunes. So yeah, very cool, guys. Well, I appreciate it. So we'll finish by asking this. Did I forget to ask you any questions? Is there anything you'd like to tell the audience or your viewers that I forgot to ask?
Well, one quick aside, I just want to give a shout out to our kids, Dennis and Dylan. it's hard also growing up and working with your parents, and I have to really commend them because it's something I didn't do, Dave didn't do. We didn't work with our parents. Right. We very much scattered right. and went off onto our ventures. But our kids went off to college and circled back, and they work with us every day. And I really
we're very fortunate because we get to see our kids every day.
We're lucky.
You know, we are a dysfunctional family because of that, but we get to see our kids every day. I mean, Dennis is 32 and Dylan is 29, and we've been doing this for 29 years. So they've lived it from day one, and
but
we're lucky to get to see them.
We're very lucky, and yet we also know it's not easy. We give them a lot of credit.
Well, that's awesome.
They're doing a great job.
Family business, how doesn't get any better than that, guys? I mean, how cool is that? That's really neat and so, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it. We really do. And folks, we just want to say, you know, it's coming near Christmas time. Dawn and David, again, were nice enough to do a little review in the book, SimpleBiz360, available on Amazon. You can go to our website, SimpleBiz360.com. Great little stocking stuffer. Still plenty of time to get it before Christmas. So we just want to do a shout out for the book. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, in your lower right-hand screen, looking at it, you'll see a little cursor, our little pinwheel favicon. Just hover over that, click on that. That'll get you to subscribe button. We'd love you to come along and see the show. Great interviews like this that help shape our understanding of how successful people like Dawn and David have done business. So again, we just thank you guys so much, and we always end our segments this year by saying customer perception is customer reality. Get to the customer before they get to you. And remember, it's all about responding, following up, and following through. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great Christmas season. Have a great time this holiday season, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to see you.
Take care. Bye-bye.